Welcome back for more Skyrim with Requiem. And the goal for this session was very simple. I just wanted to go around the Plains of Whiterun area and kill some bandits to gain some experience and find some loot, all that good stuff. And I'm doing it at night just to take more advantage of my Shadowstone power. Sounds easy, right? Well, it ended up actually being pretty hard. It took me a lot of attempts on each of these bandit camps. I think there's about 5 total in the video. If you can't tell already, I'm doing this commentary after the fact because I had to focus pretty hard when I was actually playing because these were actually pretty difficult, all of these camps. Part of it is I have the overhaul for all the locations in Whiterun, so most of these camps have additional enemies and kind of new architecture, which makes them a little bit harder. So yeah, they give me a pretty difficult time of it. So I'm trying to get in close with some combination of the crossbow and destruction magic to pick off enemies. And I'm using the Shadowstone invisibility power a ton here. And I'm not going to note every single time, but you can see it up in the top right, the notice for when I'm going invisible, just to have an idea of how often I'm using that, which is like all the time. It's really great because I can get off an attack, go invisible, and relocate, and then tackle the enemies from another angle. Because, well, especially in AZ Tweaks, the bandits are much, much tankier than they are in base Requiem, where normally a light armored bandit, you just shoot them with a crossbow and they'd basically be done for. In this, it's taking a couple of shots. Even these dual casted destruction spells, well, you can see they're doing decent damage, but it's certainly not like one-hit kills by any means. So often I'm whittling them down a little bit and kind of spreading them out so that I can take them on in melee without getting mobbed all at once. So I had to retreat all the way back to White Watch Tower there, and then I see this animal that is helping me kill off this other bandit, and then on we go. So I've kind of whittled down their numbers around Halted Stream, but I've still got quite a few left, and I'm just stalking this guy, and I'm able to take a shot off at him while I'm invisible, but it only does a little bit. And I think this guy is an archer, which is why I'm hiding around a corner, because any sort of shot from a bow will just one hit kill me almost certainly. Luckily, the skeleton is really, really effective at taking down these guys, and even though I've only got the single perk into Conjuration, with the Khajiit bonus for dual casting, I can dual cast a skeleton and it lasts long enough to tangle with these guys, and at the very least soak up a lot of shots. But that's kind of becoming my core approach for this, is I'll either take a shot or cast a summon and then go invisible and back away, and then hope that the damage from my minion will mop up the ranged guys for me, because I don't have any really great way to get close to them. So here again is just the skeleton opening, and I can tell that there's some ranged guys here, so I'm being really, really cautious and staying invisible for as long as possible, to try and pick them off. And I do get a damage bonus from attacks when coming out of invisibility. It's an extra 20% damage, I think, which makes the crossbow just a little bit more effective. And then, so that's the final guy on the outside of Halted Stream Camp. I thought there's still one more hiding around this corner who I noticed has a bow, so I don't want to take any chances, because I've just it took me about 15 minutes of running around the plains to get there, and I really don't want to get killed before I can make a save game. I'm on the hardcore saving overhaul, so I have to sleep in order to save my character, and so it adds a little bit more tension to some of those longer fights. But now that I'm inside the mine, I'm feeling a bit more confident. There just aren't as many guys, but it's also a little bit denser space. So this guy wanders into my rune trap, and then I head on down a little bit further into the mine, placing another rune, along the way so that I've got a place I can back up to. I wait just a second for my magicka to regenerate and then drop the fire on these guys. Then I'm going invisible and just waiting to see what comes up the stairs after me. And again, with the invisibility damage bonus for bolt spells, I get a nice chunk of extra damage on that first enemy, but this next one just has evidently a ton of hit points, so I'm luring him back and hoping that the rock trap will get him, and of course it does not. And I know for sure that if I get hit by that big axe, I'm just instantly dead, so I'm keeping a pretty long distance from him and trying to make some space. The dual casted, what is it, the flames spell is really, really good for kind of bursting these guys down. And yeah, some really close ones, but I'm able to take this guy down, and then I find some actually pretty good loot off of these. I get some magic gloves, some magic boots, and quite a bit of gear that I'll be able to sell, and with that I am on to the next zone. The next zone that I'm going for is over by Rorikstead, so I took the carriage over there, and there's this pair of custom added bandit camps, which I have quests associated with both of them. So I make my way over to there to continue my project of clearing out the plains of Whiterun of the bandits and all of their loot. So I'm trying to, again, take some sniper shots at these guys so that I don't have to get too close to their camp and then lure them into my runes. And as long as I get them only just one or maybe two at a time, I can handle them okay. But when there's 6 or 7 within the camp, I have to make sure that I can split them up a little bit. And the advantage I get from doing this at night is all my spell casting costs are reduced and my sneak is a little bit more effective. And I'm using invisibility pretty heavily. As you can see, I get really close to this guy and then completely miss my shot, I think. Happily, I'm just barely able to get some hits in on that archer before she can plug me full of arrows. So a little bit lucky there. And just continuing my project of trying to split up the big groups of bandits into smaller parts, because if there's a melee bandit chasing you and then archers behind that are trying to shoot you at the same time, it's really hard to keep track of all of them at once. And also AZ Tweaks increases the speed of movement for a lot of the heavy armored bandits in particular, which makes them a lot more dangerous. It's a lot harder to kite them than it was in older versions of Requiem, where the heavy armored guys would just be extremely slow. So here, like, this is a heavy armored two-hander who will undoubtedly kill me in one hit, but is still moving at a pretty good clip. And it's one big advantage of being a Khajiit spellcaster is I do have some bonus movement speed, which I think is actually helping me out a ton, making it so that even when I'm running backwards away from these guys, I still have a chance to keep up ahead of them. So I'm not sure if the same type of tactics I'm using here would be effective if I was not as a Khajiit. And I know that there's a archer around this corner from me, and so I waited long enough for my magicka to get back up so I could cast a skeleton and get in there on that guy, because again, I've gotten killed by archers many times. They're absolutely deadly for this character because I'm wearing exclusively robes and don't have any real damage resistance. So unless I'm really long range, an archer will just almost assuredly kill me in one hit. And not even to speak of like these big two-handers, like there's no chance that I can get hit by those guys. But again, the dual casted flames spell takes him down pretty quickly, and then I'm finally down to just the bandit leader that my actual quest has me looking out for. And staying invisible, I'm able to get a pretty good angle on this guy. At this point, I'm not exactly sure what kind of weapon they're carrying, so I'm being pretty cautious. But after getting in a shot, I can tell that it's, well, most importantly, it's not a crossbow guy. That's what I really care about. And after seeing how fast that swing comes out, I can tell this guy has a lot of perks into two-handed, and so I want to be far, far, far away. Like sometimes against two-handers, I'll be willing to go into melee and try and do like a torch bash to interrupt their swing, but this guy is just way too fast, and I don't think there's any way that I can get away with it. So I'm being pretty cautious, just keeping a distance, and chipping away with spells here and there, but I don't have all that great of magicka regen on my character at this point. So it's taking quite a while to get this guy down. And again, here against an enemy that was not quite so leveled and not coming out with such fast attacks, I might be thinking about like, okay, I'll just get out my torch and finish him off. But there, I just wait for the power attack, and then when he's in recovery, the two swings are able to finish him off, and no particularly great loot in that camp. The other one that's near here is the Outcast camp, which is, it's very close to a bandit, or to a giant and mammoth encampment over here. So my sort of plan for this is I'm gonna take a few shots and then try and lure the enemies back over toward the giant camp if things start going badly for me. And again, you can see all the little red dots. There's at least 6 or 7 enemies in this camp, which is way more than I can really handle. So I took my shots, went invisible, and the good thing is in darkness, since the cost of my invisibility power is reduced, I can stay invisible almost indefinitely. It's just, my magicka regen is fast enough that I can just keep using that. So I use that to get around to a better angle where I can pick off one of these guys with a dual casted lightning bolt, and then I'm kind of circling back around to the side again. And I see some arrows coming my direction and realize that it's time to run away. So I circle back around by the giant encampment, and the enemies don't entirely follow me in there, so I wait for a moment and then keep trying to draw them over into the giants, because I can go invisible so the giants don't aggro on me. But yeah, and then here's exactly what I'm hoping for, is that we can see the 3 giants there that are just absolutely slapping down the bandits who are dumb enough to follow me over there. And I come back over toward the camp and find that there's 2 archers there, so I'm like, alright, gotta run for cover, and then I cast my trusty skeleton to go and get in there. And I'm thinking I can use the ward to close distance and get into melee range, but I'm not really moving fast enough to get close to these guys, and I feel like I'm gonna run out of mana before I get close enough, so I just stay behind my hiding spot and wait for my skeleton to do some work for me. And with the skeleton softening him up, the crossbow shot takes one of them down, and then I'm just kind of trying to figure out where this other archer is hiding so that I don't get plugged with an arrow as soon as I stick my head out. Because, again, after doing all of this work, I really don't want to just randomly die. The wolf is considerably, it's a pretty weak summon, but it's good at locating where hiding enemies are. So that's the end of them. So I am able to break into the outcast camp and save my game. Then the next actual encampment that I have a quest for is at Whiterun's retreat, but the way over there is blocked by this other bandit camp. It's called Igor's camp, and there's all these guys. I think they got triggered to go looking for the wildlife, and then I completely missed my shot twice trying to lightning bolt these guys, just horrible misses, and suddenly there's 6 bandits all searching after me. So I just decided to make a run for it, because there's no way I can fight all those guys. The only good thing is that I can tell that there are no ranged enemies in there, so I can just kite these guys around all day because I'm faster than them, and just keep picking away at them with spells. But that ends up not even being strictly necessary, because again, the giants are here and just very ready to lend a hand, which I'm thrilled about. So all the bandits get focused onto this giant, and I'm just taking whatever cheap shots I can. It's kind of fun watching the bandits get sent flying by the mammoths. It's nice to see someone else on the other side of getting ragdolled by mammoths. I was actually a little bit surprised that the bandits managed to kill that giant, but I know there's no way that they can take out the mammoths. So I just kind of get the popcorn out and watch this fight for a little bit before I circle back around toward the camp. So here's the actual bandit leader of this camp, and he just gets a mace in the back of the head. And that's the end of him. No particular loot to be had here. I just grabbed the books for my goal of collecting books for Julianos, but really nothing of interest in this camp. So I just take a quick rest to save my game, and then I'm over to Whiterun's retreat. And I'm not going to lie, this took me many tries. There were a lot of just high-level bandits all clustered into this little space right outside of Whiterun's retreat. And I know this is like the most trivial bandit camp in all of Whiterun, normally within Skyrim, but here it was actually pretty hard, because you can see like 5 or 6 guys, and there's at least 3 spellcasters and at least 1 or 2 archers in there, and they just give me a really hard time. So I'm kind of hovering around the side to try and get whatever free shots that I can on these guys. But then I notice that there's someone coming around to flank me, and so I have to be moving along. I get my skeleton out to distract this guy, and yeah, the skeleton is doing a lot more damage than I am, is what it seems like, because it felt like my mace was doing next to nothing against that Argonian, but the skeleton killed him pretty fast. Then there's only one entrance in and out of this little canyon or whatever it is by Whiterun's retreat. So the guys coming after me are kind of clumped up right by that exit, and so I want to back off a little bit so that I can hopefully only have one of them coming after me at a time. And I still have it in the back of my mind that if it goes really badly, I'm going to run back toward the mammoths and try and get them to help me out. I'm doing this fight during the day, which is strategically not all that great of an idea, because it means it's a lot harder to use my invisibility power, and I'm not really getting any benefit from the Shadowstone. So that may have been a small oversight. Maybe I should have just waited until nighttime. But by having my skeleton tank for me and kind of distract these ranged enemies, I'm able to take enough shots at them with the crossbow to keep this fight manageable. And you can see why this is this gave me a lot of trouble, because there's several very high level archers in there, in addition to the mages and that Argonian who came out after me at the start. I definitely died to them a couple of times. No point sugarcoating it. This was one of the hardest little engagements that I took. So there's this mage here with the staff of sparks, and I'm kind of checking to make sure I don't get flanked, but the skeleton does a really good job of keeping this guy occupied. And I'm hitting him with this mace, and it just feels like I'm not doing any damage at all, but the skeleton does enough to finish him off. And I guess it's not terribly surprising that my damage is weak when I don't have any sort of perks into combat skills, but it is a little bit surprising because it is a refined orcish mace, which you would think would do pretty well against a light armored guy, but it's just not all that effective. So after clearing the entrance, I'm finally ready to enter the retreat itself. So here I can actually start making better use of my invisibility power, because it's in darkness and my magicka cost is reduced, so I am able to sneak up on this guy and get just a dual casted lightning bolt, which kills him really quick. Sorry, doggy. That's unfortunate, but it's important here to be able to take down this first guy without aggroing the rest of the camp, because this is a very enclosed little cave, so it's not like there's a lot of room to run them around in circles or anything. So I put down a rune here so that I've got something to back me up on my retreat, cast my mage armor, then I just wait for a second so that my magicka is at a reasonable level before I go in and try and get these other two guys. So again, just the really nice thing about the Shadow Stone is this free instant invisibility power, really, really strong, and I want to just have it be only one guy that I'm fighting instead of two. That's the goal. So I lure them both out so that the rune can finish off the first bandit, so I'm feeling pretty good there. Place another rune, and then it's just a matter of playing a little bit carefully so that this bandit boss doesn't just instantly kill me. Anyways, I had a pretty good time going through these bandit caves. It may not come through in the video, but it is much, much harder in the AZ Tweaks version of Requiem compared to base Requiem. Like this, I'm level 11 or 12 now on this character, and normally I'd be feeling like I've become quite strong. It's still feeling pretty challenging. Anyways, if you're liking this series, hit subscribe, and I've got some more stuff planned, and I'll see you in the next video.